Good morning. We are all making this up. How are you doing?
Great.
Excellent. Excellent. I love that song. It is a shame you can't sing better. It's a beautiful song choice. Last time I was here, we talked about the myth of certainty. I should probably get this in front of me so I can see my notes. We talked about the myth of certainty, now available in paperback wherever you buy your books. Now we talked about the myth of certainty and about changing the math in our lives, about how we're approaching our lives. When we start to embrace the reality that life is ever changing, how does that change the way we show up to the life we're living? If we know the moment's going to pass through us, how do we show up to them? And I talked about the hula hoop. As you remember, I don't have the hula hoop with me today. But I dropped the hula hoop on my head and on the floor here by way of directing our attention to our primary point of power. Where is it that we actually can make change in our own lives? Where is it we're making change in the world? And it all comes from within inside this range that is roughly the size of a hula hoop. This is where it's all happening. This is where the action is. Today I want to drill down on a different layer of this, and that is that we're making this up as we go. Asha, would it throw us off too much if I switch to my guitar mic?
No, go ahead. Let me just turn off the reverb so you don't sound impulsive.
Sorry, it's throwing me off having to hold this thing in my hand. It wasn't pleasing me.
You have autonomy, so you can make that happen.
I do, yes.
It's in your circle too.
It's exactly. I moved into my circle, so we're all good now. Thank you for your patience. We're all making this up, and what I want to drill down on is why that's important to get, why that's important, and why it can help change your experience of your life today. Okay, we're making this up. What happens when I forget that we're making this up? Whenever I'm wanting to make a shift, whenever I'm wanting to make a change in my life, I end up either not embarking at all because I figure other people know better than me, and what's the point? Or I embark with this incessant voice in my head telling me I'm not doing it quite right. I'm not doing it quite good enough. I don't think that really serves me. And I think, just like with the myth of certainty, when we start embracing, hey, you know what, all these goals that I'm shooting for, all these places I'm hoping I'm going to arrive at never last, how that has this sort of both-and paradox of being scary and liberating. Embracing that we're making this up has a similar both-and kind of opportunity for us. On the one hand, bad news, there's no instruction manual. Nobody you've ever known, nobody you've ever read about, nobody you've ever heard about came onto the planet knowing everything. They all made it up. The experts have been making it up a little bit longer in their particular area, and that's how they became expert, but they still started at one point making it up as they went. Even, that guy, making it up as they go. Okay. They're all making it up as they go. And the great news there is, while that's scary, it's also deeply liberating. This is what frees us to play. You don't have to know how. You don't have to know how. As a matter of fact, that's how it's done. Embarking when you don't know how. This is strange. I'm so interested in this, what's happened with the mic today. I got to tell you, because I mentioned last time, I'm obsessed with this thing. I went to see Springsteen on Broadway. And he worked a mic the whole time, even though he was doing a combination of speaking and singing, like I'm doing today. And I had it in my head, next time I'm on World, I want to try that to see if I can speak and not, because as you know, I'm inclined to move. and stay in one place and make this work. And then I was like, no, I'm just going to go with the headset. And then I show up today and you're like, hey, by the way, it's broken. You're going with the stationary mic. So it's interesting. I'm sorry. My brain's, I'm like, all right, well played. That's how we'll do it. We're making this up as we go. Yes. Let me tell you a story about this making it up and how I think it really expresses itself and liberates us. I was talking to a friend of mine, and we were having one of these conversations. When somebody is honoring you by saying, hey, look, I don't tell a lot of people about this. Those moments, this is not something I talk about a lot. It's this dream that I have, or a longing that I have, or a pain that I have. I don't tell a lot of people about it. And what I love about these moments for myself and for the people that I'm with is very often what we're doing is we're saying, I have this longing inside of me. It's a deep longing. It's strong. It's calling my soul. It's so powerfully calling my soul. And I don't tell people about it because it's very fragile. So it's both deeply strong and fragile. One of those things is true. One of those things is true. And the more we start to embrace that we're making it up, the more we start to feel the truth of that. Anyway, I'm talking to this friend, and she's doing this thing where she's saying, hey, I don't talk to a lot of people about this, but I have this dream. I have this thing that I've been longing to do. And I said, okay, that's great. And she starts telling me about it. And for her, it was this radio show, podcast, the education thing. The specifics aren't important. What's important is that it was calling to her heart. And as she's telling me about it, she's doing this thing that I catch myself doing a lot, which is she is simultaneously telling me how important it is to her and all the reasons it will not work. You know, have you done this before? Where you're telling somebody about, this is my deepest passion, but it can't work because of this, and I don't have the time, I don't have the money, I can't get to that place, I can't do this thing. And so she's trying to convince me all the reasons it won't work, even while she's convincing me it's mission critical that she doesn't. And we get to the end of this conversation, and I say, well, let me ask you a question. This thing that you're talking about, are there people that do it right now? I mean, I'm not saying like exactly the way you want to do it, but the components of it. Let's look at it in a different context. Are there people playing blues and gospel and bubblegum stuff, and is there space to maybe create something new, like, I don't know, rock and roll? When you start to draw all of those things, are there people doing the components of what you're talking about? She said, well, yeah, but they've been doing it for like 20 years. And I said, right, I get that. They've been doing it for like 20 years, but what did they do 20 years ago? Doesn't that mean that, they started? That they began? See, you don't have to know how. You just have to go. You begin by beginning. It's not about knowing how. I had those great little rhymes. I don't know how, but I know I have to now. I like that. It's not about knowing, it's about going. You've got to begin by beginning. You know why? Because that's how it's done. It is done no other way. You do not launch fully formed into whatever new thing you want in your life. You begin by beginning because we're making this up as we go. See, this changes the math of how we're living our lives. It changes the math from a need to do it right to a need to follow your whimsy instead, to play, to release the need for perfection so you can hear the inner voices without demanding of them that they show up to you in a certain way. You're making it up as you go. So how? Within our hula hoop, how do we do this? This is really hilarious for me. This is so perfect with the talk title. I wrote this book, The Myth of Certainty and Other Great News, and I can tell you that the moment I sat down to write that book, I caused trouble in my life. Everything became very uncertain. And then I made this talk title about making it up as we go, and here we are, and things are happening, and it's great. It's good. So it's changing the math. So how do we approach it then? Okay, so if we're beginning to embrace the notion that we're making this up as we go, what does it look like to approach that within our hula hoop? How do we do that in application? I think it starts with the listening. And that listening is listening to kind of two layers in my experience. There's this one layer, it's that joyful longing, like my friend was talking about. That thing you really want, that you think you're going to get something really positive out of, right? And then there's this another layer that you have to listen for the ways that you're lost. That you're feeling pain, that you're feeling discomfort, that you're feeling a sense of being lost in your life. And you're listening for those two because they're directing you to the next door to walk through. And you can't get to the door that's 6 doors down until you walk through the door that's in front of you. Okay, so they're guiding you to where you want to go. Let me put this a different way. I had the great privilege about a decade or so ago of going to Venice, Italy, which is spectacular. And one of the things that I found that Venetians and tourists agreed on, and there are not a lot of them, but that the Venetians and the tourists agreed upon, is that when you go to Venice, get lost. Go to Venice and get lost. It's prescriptive. You must do it. We did. Several times, a couple of them on purpose. But the value of getting lost in Venice is this. In Venice, what they know is that the whole of Venice is offering you magic. But the only way to find the magic that's waiting for you is to get lost so it can find you. So you hit a left or a right, and you go, I'm feeling right. You hit another left, I'm feeling left. I'm feeling right. I'm feeling, wow. Look at that building. I would have missed that if I had just been going straight to St. Mark's Cathedral. So it's about getting lost is the point. Because lost is the birthplace of found. That's how it's done. You cannot get found without first getting lost. And making it up as we go is about embracing the call to get lost. It's about listening to those joyful longings and getting lost in what they're calling you to do next. It's about listening to those painful senses of feeling lost and going toward it, not away from it. It's directing you somewhere. It's guiding you to the next place of magic in your life. Because we're making this up as you go. This is what I believe Wayne Dyer's talking about when he says, let yourself be lived by your life. Let yourself be lived by your life. Don't ignore the longings. They're your guides. That's the answer to your prayer. Don't ignore the lost. It is also an answer to your prayer. So the beginning of making it up as you go, for me, as I was trying to chart this out in a way that would be memorable and alliterative so I could put it in a talk, it was listening. It's listening, learning, and living. That's what we're going to be doing here. Okay? And in the listening part, we're just dialing in and saying, I'm not going to convince you, dear dream, of all the reasons you won't work. I'm not going to push back on you and resist you and numb myself out to you, dear loss. I'm going to turn up the volume on both of you because I think you're my guide. I think if I let myself be lived by you, it might change my world. I'll give you a more personal example. When we were getting ready to release this book, my dear friend and partner Pamela and I, the night before we were going to announce it on social media, a very limited crowd on social media, to be clear, and I started kind of melting down. I mean, I was freaking out, and I don't know what was happening. There's been a lot of change in my life in the last several years during the period that I did this book, when I went from being a full-time touring musician to being something a lot different, and not really sure what to do within this hula hoop anymore. Not really sure what it looks like to be me. And now here we are, we're about to announce this. It feels like this big thing. My relationship with people in my craft has been about 3.5 minutes long, like most songs. And now suddenly it's this long, which is longer. and more vulnerable and more laid bare. And I'm texting her and I'm like, can we just hop on the phone for a minute? She's like, sure. We hop on the phone. And she's like, what's going on? I'm like, I'm freaking out. I don't like anything we're put together here. And she's like, what's the problem? I said, it just doesn't feel authentic. It doesn't feel like me. It doesn't feel sincere and authentic. And she said, cool. Then let's do something authentic. And I was like, oh, right. That makes sense. And she said, and not for nothing. I read in this book recently that we're all making this up. So maybe we should remember as we're doing this process that, we're making this up. And so what I'm saying, the reason I use that example is it was a very specific opportunity where I was being called to not resist the turmoil, not resist the anxiety, not resist the frustration, because it was directing me to where to turn to see the most magnificent thing I'd ever seen. Well, not really. It was a good day, though. But, it was directing me. If I listened to it, it was giving me direction. I think about this a lot, and I was thinking about this a lot when I was getting ready for this talk. Because I'm upset in my life right now, and I know a lot of you are, because it's November 4th, and I don't know what Tuesday looks like, and I really don't know what Wednesday looks like, or the Wednesday after, or the Wednesday after. I don't understand how to fully show up to my life and all the stuff that's tough and challenging in my world when all this stuff is being thrust upon me as well to deal with every day, every day, every day. I don't understand it. I don't know how to do that. I don't know what it looks like to show up to another shooting and another shooting and 11 people at a synagogue. Are you kidding me right now? I don't know, but I want to fix it. And I want to be a part of that change. And I want to be a part of that solution. And it brings me to tears. And it makes me angry at God. And I'm like, what do you want us to do? I don't understand what the heck all this is for. And when I get into my most centered place, I go, okay, I get it. Maybe we're going to come out the other side of all of this better and changed. But in the meantime, lives are happening in this constant state of anxiety and turmoil. And we're making it up as we go. Because that's how it's done. And so I'm called back to this space here. And I get up in the morning and I go, what do I do today? What can I do today? And some days, that's about not watching the news. Some days, that's about just being more loving to people that I can clearly see aren't on the same page as I am. And knowing that that's got to be part of the answer. Some days, it's a post on social media. Some days, it's getting out of town and just being quiet. Some days it's making love. Some days it's yelling into my pillow. Some days it's playing my guitar. The point is, it's listening and going, I don't know what to do, God, and not ignoring when God is saying, how about you give that person a hug? Because that's the action. That's the answer I'm being given. Just because I think I want it to be this grand thing, I am not Albus Dumbledore. I can't wave some kind of wand and make it all okay. That was the Harry Potter reference, sorry. I can't just wave a wand and make it go away. So the way God works through me, the way the universe works through me, whatever you call it, the way my life works, is by doing the next thing I can think to do. And that's exactly the right thing to do. So I'm listening for those voices. And I'm starting to learn from them as we go, to dial into what are they teaching me? What are they guiding me to? And what happens when I do that? I want to say super informed. So I get really, really informed. How do I feel? Informed, but heavy. All right, well, how do I do that differently? It's learning, right? I spend days and days and days crafting the perfect post to give voice to my opinion, and then everybody blows up and gets pissed off about it, How do I feel about that? Did it work? Did it achieve what I wanted to achieve? Learning, listening, learning. Not hating on myself for trying, because we're all making this up as we go, because that's how it's done. Okay? It's not about doing it right. You don't have to know. You just have to go. You begin by beginning. As I've said in this space before, Gandhi wasn't saying, be the change in your world, so go make sure you get a sticker on the back of your car and march in every march you can march in. Gandhi was saying, be the change in your world. In your world. On the ground in which you stand. That's where the change happens. And it doesn't happen by knowing. It just happens by going. Going and doing the next thing you can think to do. And the great news for people in this room, people watching online, is that you're already the kind of people who are looking to be more conscious, to be more aware, to be more dialed in. So you're already open. You're already listening. You're already wanting to be in a place where you're noticing, you're listening, and you're learning from what's coming your way. There's a strong history to back this up. And let's see how we do this. We're going to do like this. In my book, I quoted Ralph Waldo Emerson. Do not be too timid or squeamish in your actions. All life is an experiment. The more experiments you make, the better. What if they are a little coarse and you may get your coat soiled or torn? What if you do fail and get fairly rolled in the dirt once or twice? What if you can't turn the page? Up again. You shall never be so afraid of a tumble. All life is an experiment. All life is an experiment. The more experiments you make, the better. We've always known this. We've just wanted it to be different. We've always known that we're making it up. We just wanted it to be that somebody was going to hand us something. And just like with the myth of certainty, when we've been like, gosh, I wish I could get to some arrival point where I could be happy. And the universe is saying, so here's the thing. You can work to those things, but you can be happy while you're doing it. That is the arrival. With the making it up, this, I wish I had the guidebook. You do. It just comes in smaller chapters than you thought. It's coming in smaller insights than you thought. It's part of the lost. That's where you get found. It's calling you to allow you to be lived by it. A friend of mine posted this on social media, and it immediately struck me. It immediately went into my little notes that I keep about talk ideas. She said, I am struck by how sharing our weaknesses and difficulties is more nourishing to others than sharing our qualities and success. I am struck by how sharing our weaknesses and difficulties is more nourishing to others than sharing our qualities and success. The beauty of when you start embracing making it up as you go. The beauty of that is that not only are you then walking the path as best you can figure it within your hula hoop, but you're liberating people around you to do the same. You need not worry about being foolish. It is our job to make as many experiments as possible. And everybody you've ever admired looked foolish at various points along the way until later their biopic is made and then it looks like it was magical.
Yeah.
It was foolishness at the time, I assure you. So we are called upon to listen. We are called upon to learn as we go. And we are called upon to let ourselves be lived by the answers that are coming to us and through us. And just do the next thing. Just look for where your thoughts are being guided, your words are being guided, your actions are being guided within this circle. When you do that, you are absolutely going to change the world in which you live. At the very least, you're going to change your experience of it, which is kind of the same thing. We are making this up as we go. You don't have to know. You just have to go. You begin by beginning. I'm going to wrap up with a song. This is a new one for me. So funny. What's funny for me about this, by the way, is that I used to do a lot of dates every month, and this was all just like putting on my favorite pair of jeans, and now I'm not like, oh, I feel like Bambi. Good stuff. Thank you, God. Be hopeful. You're doing just fine. This is what it looks like to get there. Thank you for having me again. What they don't tell you is you won't know you year over year. No matter what you do, life carves a new you year over year. And that's the good news. The surest sign that you've still got work to do with your breath. So go out into the world, find a boy, find a girl, be a saint, be a sin, find a dream and go all in, fall in love and get burned, go get lost and you learn. It just gets sweeter, just gets sweeter. It's what they don't tell you. It's what they don't tell you, no. Don't miss the good life while you build your good life year over year. Moments come and never stay, they gently knock and slip away year over year. That's the good news, surest sign that you still got work to do with your breath. So go out into the world, find a boy, find a girl, be a saint, be a sin, find a dream and go all in, fall in love and get burned, go get lost and you learn it just gets sweeter, just makes it sweeter. It's what they won't tell you. That's what they don't tell you. Step free of thinking that it's your mission to make your way through your days without pain. There will be bleeding, laughing and reaching. Fill every line and every scar with memories. And go out into the world, find a boy, find a girl, be a saint, be a sin, find a dream and go all in, fall in love and get burned, go get lost and you learn it just gets sweeter, just makes it sweeter. So go out into the world, find a boy, find a girl, be a saint, be a sin, find a dream and go all in, fall in love and get burned, go get lost and you will learn it just gets sweeter, just makes it sweeter. It's what they don't tell you. That's what they don't tell you. Just gets sweeter. Just makes it sweeter. Thank you all so much. Thank you.
No, thank you. Oh, this is way too tall for me.
Don't use that. Use the wireless.
Where is the wireless?
It should be.
Where did I put it?
Your pocket? No? Is it in this pocket?
No, you took it from
Oh, I took it?
Natasha.
Oh,
Yeah.
all right, wait, hold on, I have it.
This place runs like a Swiss watch.
There you go.
I just want to thank Brian for that amazing talk.
Yes.
Thank you so much. And because we are who we are, I propose we just take a few minutes and talk about it. What do you think? My takeaway from that was that we don't need to operate in fear. That was one takeaway. I had many. But there's so many times that fear just shuts us down and we say, no, someone else can do it better, someone else should do it, I'm too busy, I've got this, I've got that. It's like, no, if we're all making it up, what's mine to do is mine to do and not someone else's. What other takeaways do you have? By the way, we're also going to bag the second song. Because let's just talk about this. This was a great talk. We had folks watching it online. 3 people shared it. So go home and share it. You know, one of the things we do here at One World is that we like putting practical principles out there that help us live better lives. This was a great talk to do that. Tim.
So you're, excuse me.
Tim, come on up here. Just talking to the mic so we can hear you. We're still running online, right?
Yes.
Okay, cool. Hit it.
I don't remember exactly what it was, your friend's social post of
sharing weaknesses and
Yeah.
vulnerabilities,
Yeah.
more nurturing. I find that true because everybody, well, not everybody, many people, I think, oh, keep up with the Johnsons.
Yeah.
It's like everybody else's life is great. Why can't I have your life? And then you share, oh my, I have troubles too. It's like, oh great. Not great, but everybody else is the same. It's not a perfect life. Thank you. I'm not alone. That's my takeaway.
No, you're right. I read a post the other day. This lady was changing her life to be she was going from point A to point B. And she was trying to put out good word for point B, what she was going to do. And her bio read, after 20 years as a change agent, making huge changes across the globe and blah, blah, blah. I'm like, I just don't like you already. I mean, sometimes I think that as a speaker here at One World, my bio, my main takeaway should be, I don't have any advanced degrees in anything. I'm just like you. Okay, I'm a lawyer, but who cares for purposes of this? It's like I haven't been inducted into the holy rite of the Vedanta anything. I just get up and talk about what I think, which is what you can do. Same thing. There's something to be said for saying, yeah, you can do this. Just get up and do it because we're all making this up. We look at people like Tim said, and they're not better than us. They're not different than us. They're just saying what's in their heart. Right? And when they say it truly, and I saw this when you were talking, when they say it truly, it just gets a level of articulation and clarity and heart, and it just speaks to people, doesn't it? It's like, yeah, I think that too. I can do that too. I'm in my hula hoop and I can get up every day and make a difference. If I just operate without fear as who I am. Any other takeaways? That was mine. Asha.
Yeah, I love what you say, and I think this is true. People get stopped before they even start because all we see is the magic marketing with the fancy bio, and they make it sound like the overnight success. They write overnight success, but it doesn't say that really the person started 20 years ago working on this. It's just that no, it didn't catch up until what seems like overnight. And I think that's a huge disservice to anyone, really, because it builds built-in doubt. And
Well, it does. It's like don't start if you cannot see your way to the end where you're on Oprah, you're on CNN, you've got $1 zillion, you're a global marketing success. It ain't going to happen for most of it, but that doesn't mean we still don't make a huge difference in our world. It doesn't mean we don't make a huge difference in the lives of others who then go on to make differences in the lives of others. Right? We anticipate an outcome, and if we don't think we can make it, we just say forget it, the whole thing. But you're exactly right. So anyway, keep thinking about this. Sydney, yes.
When you're talking, this has been a realization that just happened recently for me. No one tells you when you have cancer how are you supposed to plan. Because the most planning you do is either to die or not to die. That's as far as you can go. And then finally, when I started realizing there's all kinds of life on the other side of that diagnosis, then I started planning ahead, that I do have a life ahead. That there is, all of a sudden I'm 5 years out and I'm still here. And so, and it was just within the last 6 months that I started thinking, well, now what are you going to do? You're still here. It's not enough just to plan to live or die. It's like, what are you going to do with the time you have? And that's all we've got, is the time we have. So that's when I started, well, I'm going to write a book. So I'm going to write a book. And so that's coming together. I found my little niche here and what I like to do to help out with you all and, whatever we can do here. And it's like, oh, there's a lot of life on the other side of a diagnosis of cancer. So if anybody listening, if you know of anyone, help give them hope that there's more. There's more people are living with cancer than are dying from cancer. So help them plan how to live, not just how to not die. So thank you.
Yeah.
well said.
No, you're right. Another takeaway I have, and then we'll wrap it. Another tip, unless somebody else has something they want to say, which I'd like to hear. Yes, Paul.
Just real quick, I'm
Yes,
just glad
please.
I now have free pass to continue doing whatever I want, making it up as I go along, with someone with a type A organized personality. Thank you.
Yes, thank you. What a blessing you have been for Paul. Yes. But no, actually, Paul's a great great example because you just started this podcast, The Overwhelmed Brain. And you literally, and I feel I can say this because I think it's true and now it's a success, you were making it up as you went.
Totally.
And now you have thousands of listeners, you're helping lots of people, you've published a book. I mean, that is an example for just making it up as you go and just knowing the next step will be the right step.
True.
So that was a plug. The other thing I want to say as I was thinking for your talk is you talk about how you're just making it up as you go and the key is to begin. And what I was thinking is when we begin, the universe steps in and supports us.
Yes.
The universe whispers, go girl, go, you're doing great. And it just, because we're co-creators, we're not pulling all the levers, we just step out and we express our confidence that the universe will support us and help us. And in that step is our saying, yes, I will make it happen. Yes, I know we can make it happen. I know things will come together to make something happen. I may not know what it is. I may not know how it looks, but it's going to be wonderful. Wow, look at that building. I just don't know. Yeah, that's wonderful. I just want to give Brian a round of applause. Thank you so much.